So at some point you did find yourself in Las Vegas. Grew up in Nashville, I understand. So I mean, obviously, both your parents are in country music at the time. So tell us how you ended up in Las Vegas, of all places.
Well, my parents got divorced when I was like 9. And so when they split up, my mom had family in Vegas, so we went out there. I went with my mom and my sister and went to like middle school and high school in Vegas. And then during high school I started coming back and forth to Nashville because, songwriting. And did that for a really long time. I had an apartment here, so I would go play on the strip for a week or two and save up all my money and then spend it on a rental car and my apartment in Nashville. I did that for a long time before I finally planted my roots back here in February 2017. Yeah, that's the gist. I spent my teens just playing on the strip and cutting my teeth doing that.
And so you and I became friends in 2016, and that's why I wanted to talk about Vegas, because I remember those days of you really trying to get your name to be seen in a town where, in my opinion, this is not your opinion, or maybe it is, but I'm not going to speak for you. In my opinion, Vegas is really difficult for a young artist to be seen and heard. So I saw the struggle that you had back in those times 8 years ago with Vegas. So what I'd love to hear is tell us about some of the struggles you may have faced as a young artist in Las Vegas, of all places, where they're really known for extravagance and kind of the older artists that have residencies there and stuff like that. What is the music life like in Las Vegas, and how did you fit into that?
I'm really grateful for the music scene in Vegas. I started playing open mics when I was like 15, 16, and that led me to like this great little friend group I had. And we would go play at like bookstores and art festivals, and that was super cool experience for me. And then I don't know, by the time I was like 16, I was like, well, I want to make money doing this. So I started playing more paying gigs and cover gigs and that was really cool. But the music scene in Vegas is I don't think I knew very many country artists, and by that point I knew I wanted to do country music. Um, and there was a lot of great bands that have come out of Vegas. I mean, Imagine Dragons came out of Vegas, Panic at the Disco. Um, there's more that I'm blanking on, but they're all not country, So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think I always knew that I needed to be back in Nashville if I wanted to be a writer and maybe do country music. Um, Whoops. Sorry, is that me? I
Yeah, I
might
don't.
cut out.
No, you still sound fine to me.
Okay, sorry. Weird. There's a ghost. I use this all the time. That's never happened. Anyway, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm sure there's some great country artists coming out of Vegas. I don't know them yet, but I knew I needed to be in Nashville. Maybe it's just in my soul
So I
because it
mean,
was
yeah,
home.
it's already there, from an early age, the whole Nashville vibe. So I imagine you probably maybe felt a little bit like a fish out of water in Vegas, just based on your want tos in country music. But you did you mentioned you did end up back in Nashville around 2017, 2018, and you released your
Yeah.
first EP around that time. And some of your songs from that first EP really kind of blew up. And I mean, you're still an extremely young artist at the time. So in that time, you see your first couple of cuts that are really doing well. How do you keep yourself grounded during that time as a young artist?
Well, I had actually put out a whole bunch of music before that in when I was living in Vegas. I was super young, and none of it was I ever had a producer. It was always I got some musicians together and we banged it out. And I'm really grateful for that. I think all of that stuff is great, and I'm super proud of it. I don't think I'll ever be one of those artists that like pulls stuff down, because I really do see baby Megan and the talent and she was so hungry for it, and I'm not ashamed of any of it. But when I got to Nashville full time, the first thing I did was I met somebody told me to meet with the producer. Actually, it was Jason Duke. Me and Jason Duke, who's a big songwriter. He wrote
Mm-hmm.
Dibs for Kelsey Ballerini. He had coffee with me, bless him. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just got here. And he was like, well, I think you need a producer. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And so I just happened to meet Brad Hill. I don't even remember how we met. And I had some money saved up and we made this little EP. And my whole plan was to just get it to labels, get it to publishers. That's the next step. And so sure enough, like 1 year. I think it was like my 1 year anniversary of being in Nashville. Basically, I had a I had a label meeting, which sounds crazy, with like the top dog. It just all just kind of happened. And no contracts were signed or anything like that, but what a whirlwind experience. That this project did exactly what I wanted it to do, which was just like introduce myself formally as like, hi, I'm Megan and I'm here. So super grateful for that whole
And
experience.
a lot of things started happening for you on the heels of that, with endorsements, sold out shows, just all kinds of things just happening all of a sudden for you. And just it was amazing to watch from my perspective as a fan of yours. But tell us about your work ethic, because I know your work ethic is very important to you just by following you and seeing you on your social media. What's your work ethic like in specifically getting your brand and your music to new ears?
It's so interesting to hear what my story sounds like from other people. So I'm glad to hear it's positive things, like you're like, oh, you must have a work ethic. Well, I'm really glad it comes off that way, because it definitely feels like it. I try to. Yeah, I think I kind of figured out when I got here I didn't want to waste any more time. Part of me kind of wishes I had come here even sooner than I did.
It's so funny you
Um,
say that. Just let me interrupt just for a second. You talk about wasting time. You're such a young artist. You're not wasting time at this point. But just keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, and I think it was a little bit too of the era of Taylor Swift, and
Yeah.
I was Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez, these like Disney stars that I was watching on TV at the time were having records out when they were like 16, and so I think it's a little bit of that. eh, Toxic, I don't know, I'm just gonna say it,
Competitiveness. I
mentality.
gotcha. I gotcha.
Oh, just a little bit of unnecessary pressure I probably didn't need, but yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of wild when you zoom out. But the work ethic thing, I do work really hard. I appreciate you saying that. I try to, man, I try to do something every day to move the needle and give myself some grace when it doesn't feel like the needle's moving, because a lot of the time it doesn't feel like it's
Oh,
moving.
you telling me.
But it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the same for anything you're working on. You don't see it, and I try to like explain it, like if you're like climbing up a mountain and you're just watching your feet the whole time, you don't really notice how far you've come until you turn around and look. So I try to just turn around and look every now and then and be like, "All right, girl, keep going. Like you got this."
Oh, what a great way of putting it. I love to hear it in those terms. That's a good point. Yeah, if zooming out definitely does help with perspective. And we get so
Yeah.
wrapped up in not zooming out and being laser focused on ahead instead of behind, that we don't always realize how far we have come. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. My girlfriend Holly, I've never seen Frozen. I know that's a sin, but she said there's a quote in Frozen or Frozen 2 where they say just do the next right thing. I need to watch that movie because that just stays with me. I'm like, okay, just do the next right thing. That's all you can do, right?
Man, imagine being inspired by a movie you've never seen.
I know. I'm the worst. I'm sorry, but it's because I work so hard. I don't have time to watch movies. No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. I watch movies all the time.